Hello, today I'd like to show you how to make a little strawberry which is great for a pincushion maybe. I've done 3 different sizes here and I can show you how I've achieved that. They're fun and quick and easy to make, a little bit fiddly perhaps, but I'm starting with circles, so I've got 3 different sizes here and I've cut out 3 different sizes of circles. So the smaller one is this size, which is cut from a 5.5 inch diameter circle, so that means it's 5.5 inches from that edge to that edge. The middle one here is cut from a 6.5 inch circle, and this larger one is cut from an 8.5 inch circle. So you can see that pretty much any size circle will work. If you've got circle sizes in between or larger, that's great. You can get 2 strawberries out of 1 circle. So we're going to cut, I'm just going to work on one of the larger size ones today to show you how to do this. So once you've cut your circle out, and you know it's not absolutely critical if it wasn't a perfect circle, but something pretty close to a circle is quite good. So I'm going to pop a fold in it so that I find out, so I've lined up my edges and just finger pressed a fold so that I can find a centre line, because I'm going to cut my circle in half. So I can use my rotary cutter to do that and just place the ruler along that fold that I've just finger pressed in there and trim that in half. So now I've got enough fabric to make 2 strawberries. So what we need to do, we're going to be sewing it up into a little cone, but we're going to have to gather this edge up. So I can do that on the sewing machine. You could do this by hand. You could do a little running stitch with a thread that will then pull up tight, but I'm going to do it on the sewing machine. So on the machine I've gone to my largest stitch. On this machine it goes up to a size 6. Its regular size is 2.5. So whatever your largest stitch is quite good. And you don't want to be right next to the edge, because it may just pull away. Somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch in. And don't start right from the very edge there. Come in a little bit, because we'll be doing a seam there and we don't want the gathering threads in there. So just come in just past the seam area and then just do this large stitch all the way around that curved edge. Strawberries are so delicious. Okay, and now I can take that out. Now leave yourself some thread to play with at both ends. And now I need to adjust my stitch back to its regular size, to 2.5. I'm going to move my needle across so I get my 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I've got this large stitch running around here, and because it's a large stitch, that's going to pull up quite nicely. If you just grab the top thread, you'll see that you can actually pull on that and that'll gather. I don't want to gather it just yet because I want to do my seam first. So now I'm going to place it with this straight edge, fold it up so that the straight edges line up together and the edge meets at the top. And now I'm going to do just a regular seam, 1/4 inch in, all the way down, but I'm just going to round that corner. I don't want to go straight, I don't want to point on the end. You can see here I've got a slightly rounded, irregular end. Don't panic about it whether it's an exact shape, but we're just going to come up to here, and about 1/2 inch from the end I'm just going to not go straight across but just round that corner. So you'll probably see what I'm doing on the machine. But do yourself a little lock stitch when you start the machine. Just remember with your 1/4 inch seam, so just lock it so that it won't come undone at the top end there, and then come all the way down, and about 1/2 inch before the end, and I'm about there now, I'm going to just start swiveling that fabric around so that just, and then lock that off when you reach that folded edge. So I'm not sure if you can see that, but I've got that coming right round to a nice little rounded edge there, and that will just give me a little blunt end on the strawberry rather than a point, which wouldn't be very helpful. Now, without cutting your threads that you used for gathering, you could trim that thread away that we've just sewn the seam with so that it's not getting in our way and confusing us. And now we can just turn that out the right way, and because we're not trying to make an exact point or anything, we get a nice little rounded snub nose, which actually strawberries often have. And now with these threads here, you've got two lots of threads. You've got the back threads and the front threads. And for no particular reason, I usually gather the top threads. Sometimes on your machine, when you've gone to a larger stitch, they've pulled a bit tight anyway, so it's the obvious one to pull. So now I'm just going to pull them up a little bit. Oh, I hope I am. I'm going to pull this one up. If you can't pull them both, you can probably just pull one and pull it around. You don't want to pull it up so tight you can't get your fingers in, because we're going to just fill it with some filling. So just pull it up a little bit so that you've got something to work with. And now I'm going to grab some of my filling. Now when you're filling little things up, there's just little tiny bits. Just tease it out, and that just makes it nice and fluffy, and just pop it down inside. Don't try doing a great big clump at once. Push it right down into the nose there. Just tease it out, little tiny bits at a time. It may seem a little bit tedious. You think, oh, you could just throw a whole clump in there, but what it will do is go all clumpy and lumpy. So by doing it little bits at a time, and this is how I do any sort of stuffing. If I'm stuffing for a doll or some other thing, I'll just do it little teased out bits at a time, and you'll find that that will just go in really nicely. The strawberry is looking more delicious by the moment. You always need to overstuff a little bit, because it will just settle down, and you're going to have to pull that gathered edge in shortly. So just make sure it is quite full, because you don't want it to be a skimpy strawberry. Because you can use them for pincushions and things, again, slightly more stuffing rather than slightly less is probably quite helpful for looking after pins and things too. So we're looking pretty good. We're going to be pulling that in, so it's looking quite good. One more lot, I think. Should just about do. And just make sure that it's all filled in around. And now you want to finish pulling up your gathering thread here. Both sides. And now it's quite handy if you've got someone else with a finger nearby. My nearby other person with the fingers on the end of the camera at the moment, so I shall have to try and do this myself. So pull that up as tight as you can get it and tie it in a knot. So as I said, if you've got someone else's finger, that's really handy, because mine's probably going to let go just a little bit, but it won't matter too much, because I'm going to stitch across there now. Now those other bits of thread that we had there we don't need, but don't go trimming them off yet, because they're still holding that gathering thread there. So I'm going to just grab a needle now, and the threads that I've just tied it off with, I'm going to thread onto a needle. So I'll just trim them both to the same length. Thread onto a needle, and I'm just going to do a few stitches across just to hold that in nice and tight. So these are not going to be seamed, they do not need to be elegant stitches, they just need to be holding. So I'm going to go across, so I've come across there, and now I'm going across there to try and pull that little hole in to make it as small as possible. We are going to be covering this end, so as I said, elegance is not necessarily a thing at this particular moment. So that's looking pretty good, it's pretty tight. So I'll just tie off my thread now nice and tight. Pop a knot in it. And now I can just snip those threads. Now don't snip them right up close, just in case, because we're wanting them to hold, but just half an inch or so away from where the knot is. And now I'm going to just, for my little leaf part that's on the strawberry, I'm actually just using a star. It's just a slightly irregular star, and it's made out of wool felt, which is quite nice. And I'm just going to sew that on there, but I also want to pop a little hanging thread So I found the easiest way to do that is to pop a button on first. So I've got myself a needle and thread ready here. So I'm going to sew my button onto my felt star first, somewhere in the middle. This strawberry's looking good. Because I've got 4 holes, I'm going to do a crossover, go through a couple of times. It's not particularly for strength, it's more for the look of it at this stage. So that's my button on my star, and I'm just going to do a little single locking stitch on the back, and I'm going to leave that needle and thread attached there. And now I've got another needle ready to go with a decorative lightweight cord, which I'm going to be using as my little dangly bit. You may not want a dangly bit, in which case you don't have to have one. So I'm just going to come up through one of the buttonholes and back down through an opposite one. And now I'm going to just tie a knot underneath here, so I need to make sure that that's going to be a long enough dangly for what I'm trying to do. So I can cut that off and just tie that in a knot underneath. It's not going to be seen. Trim off any excess that's there so it doesn't stick out, and you can pull that up, and there's your little dangly ready to go. So now with this needle and thread that's still attached here, I now need to sew that over that little hole. So because that's still attached underneath, this is a little bit fiddly, I'm just going to pop that into the strawberry and back up under, just right underneath the edge of the button. And I'm just going to do a few little stitches around under the button edge, catching into the strawberry so that it sits nice and snug over that little pulled up area. So they're just not anything amazing, these stitches, they're just stitches going through, right through into your strawberry and then back up under that button edge so that you don't really see these. Pretty much back until where I started. And then I'm just going to bring my needle up, going through the strawberry and the filling a bit, somewhere underneath one of the points. Now not right out at the point, but somewhere sort of central to one of the star points. Bring that needle up. And now I'm just going to catch that little leaf bit and go back down into the strawberry and then along over to the next little star leaf bit. So it's all underneath, not going to see it. Pop another little stitch in. You don't want these to be great big stitches, we're not trying to see these on the front. They may show through just a little bit, but this is just to hold the points in place so that it doesn't all flop back and cause other problems. But we're not stitching all the way down and around. This will be what's holding these little star points on the back here. So if you look, you can just see where my stitch is just there, but I don't see that as a big problem. I think it's quite cute just the way it's sitting. Another couple of these to go and we're just about done. It doesn't take long to make a strawberry. Okay, and so this is the last one now. So I'm going to do my little stitch as usual, but I'm going to come back up again pretty much where I am, and I'm just going to do a little lock off stitch there. So I'll do a little stitch and then another little one, which I'll do a little double twist around my needle and pull that up like a little knot. And then I'm going to pop my needle back down in right next to that and just bring it out somewhere else in the strawberry and trim my ends off over there so I don't get little ends where the knot is. They'll just disappear into the strawberry. And as you can see, that didn't take long. You've watched the whole process. We started with a circle, we cut it in half, we did some gathering stitches, we filled it with some filling, we've put a little leaf thing on the top, we've got a little hanging cord, and how great is that? Now you can make strawberries any size. I've also, on my little scissors here, you might have noticed I've got one hanging. This is made entirely of wool felt. These ones are cotton quilting fabrics. And I've actually sewn some little seed beads on this one, which I thought was quite cute. And I have made a few other strawberries here. We have actually a lovely platter of strawberries, including one very large strawberry. Just got very carried away with this delicious looking fabric, and a bigger star on the back. And I haven't done a dangly. I thought this was a bit big for my scissors, but this will make a great pincushion. Just sitting around, I can just stick my pins in it. And this one I've made from a large circle, obviously, and I just did the largest circle I could get out of a fat quarter, which meant that it was somewhere in the region of 17.5 inches diameter circle, and I've cut it in half. So you can get 2 of these out of a fat quarter. So that's really great. So other than that, I've got my lovely looking platter of strawberries here. I've done a couple of others that I've got the wool felt and a little bit of the beads on it, and I just can't think of anything more delicious than a little plate of strawberries like that. They would look good just sitting on the table. They'd make great gifts. They make a great little project. So I hope you enjoy those strawberries. Thank you.